We're catching a wave of a groundswell that's just starting around the country and in a sense around the world to assert people's rights to decide to protect their own health and safety and to curb the excessive corporate power that intrudes on that.
The very first question we have to ask is, in your community, when it comes to the issues and the questions and the decisions about those issues that affect you and your family and your environment and future generations directly, when it comes to the decisions on those issues in your community, who makes them? If it's not the people who are affected by the decisions, it's not consent of the governed, and it's not self-government. If it's somebody else, it's something else. If it's somebody else, if it's not the people affected by the decisions that are making those decisions, what are you going to do about it?
Like, who decides what's going to be done to our health and our safety and what's going to be sprayed on us? And this ordinance says we decide.
Whether it's pesticides or other toxins or development that doesn't really suit your community, whatever it might be, regulatory law is not meant to empower communities to make decisions where they can simply say no to the kinds of projects and harms that they don't want. What it allows you to do is have the regulations enforced. Actually, what we had to focus on instead of the rules and the regulations that were industry devised, what we really need to do is focus on the rights of communities. That's why we refer to the work we do as rights-based organizing.
Instead of begging unelected political appointees at regulatory meetings, we instead make a local law in the name of real people's real needs and rights to safety.
You know, we really end up having three choices when it comes to what to do about issues like the pesticides or other harms that might be planned for any given community. We can do nothing, and you know you're going to get the harms then. You can just stand by and watch the pesticides be brought in or sprayed or however they're going to be applied. We can attempt to use the regulatory structure of law, enforce the permits, and enforce the regulations, and honor the permits, which the permits, when issued, are a license to do harm and a protection against those who would do the harm from being sued by the community being harmed. Okay? We can insist that all of those regulations be enforced, and what happens as a result of that decision? We get harmed.
The next step for us is to get an ordinance in place, an ordinance with teeth and penalties and fines and accountability and so on. The experience with these kind of ordinances in other towns around the country has been that passing that ordinance, even if it's challenged, that passing the ordinance, the corporations have not come back to try to do their dirty work.
Maybe the state, you've got their attention, but if you really want to get their attention, and this is what other communities that we've worked with have done, if you really want to get their attention, you just go ahead and not wait for them, and you pass a local law that says, you know, we're just going to we're going to act as though we had the rights, because we already know we have them. And we're going to act on the premise that the rights are real and inalienable, and that the state acts beyond its authority by denying them. You cannot, against our consent, spray us with poisons. It's illegal and unconstitutional.
Corporate conglomerates, your dollars they do lust. No matter their toxicity, yeah, it's a disgust. Lobbying vigilantly, they're always on top. CEOs getting richer, we've gotta make it stop.
If you don't own anything, if you can't claim to own this, I don't know what you can claim to own. The idea, the legal concept of trespass is an ancient one, goes way, way back, and it's possible, we believe, to protect that interest and that right to be free from trespass. The state might come in and say, I'm sorry, but you are acting beyond your authority in enacting this ordinance. And what some of those communities have said, looking back at the state attorney generals and so forth, is we're sorry, actually, because you're acting beyond your authority and denying us our fundamental rights. And we're not waiting for you to do the right thing. That it's not up to the people harmed to prove they've been harmed. Rather, if the people in the community find the toxins in their system, it's up to the people and the corporations that illegally apply those toxins into the community to prove they aren't the source. Just to put it in a nutshell, what this ordinance would do is subordinate those individuals and corporations and state agencies that permit the poisoning of your community, would subordinate those folks to the rights of the people of your community. It's important to understand that it's a real battle that you're entering into. If you say to the state of California, our rights empower us with the authority to make this decision, you got to mean it. And your city council members got to know you mean it. One of the maybe counterintuitive things about our type of organizing is that we don't run away from those legal challenges. We actually need them in order for the organizing to expand and to drive the rights, not just at the local level, but to drive them up finally to the state level to kill that preemptive theory, that theory of law that says that they can strip our rights and it's just what states do. How do we get there? Well, we know we don't have access to the state legislature the way we'd like to, like we could if we were lobbyists with deep pockets and could fund campaigns and things like that. So how can we do it? One way that we've found that we can generate a broader support for this type of organizing is to have a community get sued and then have, for instance, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania on January 31st, 2008, this year, file a legal brief, in opposition to our legal brief that said that the community has a right to pass this ordinance based on its self-governing authority, and for the Attorney General to say this in his legal argument. This is his #1 argument against the ordinance, quote, "There is no inalienable right to local self-government."
What happened as a result of the Attorney General making that statement was that a lot of people who actually thought that we lived in a democracy got a lot of education really fast. And in fact, 24 communities passed resolutions in support of East Brunswick. 6 communities actually passed the same ordinance right after that, knowing that they were likely to get sued as well. So this is, this is actually part of the work, which is to say we have to start somewhere to begin asserting our rights.
And you have to actually frame the argument and the fight the right way. And the ordinances are drafted so that when you end up in court, you force your opponents to tell the truth.
Myth of mass destruction, it's all a manipulation. With them there's no conviction. They're all chronic liars, chronic liars. They're gonna tell you anything they can. Bottom line is what's in it for them. There's no caring for the one that gets hurt, the one with the blood all over their shirt. They're chronic liars, chronic liars. You gotta watch out, you gotta watch in, you gotta be aware wherever they've been, cause bottom line it's what's in it for them. They're all chronic liars.